Alright, let's talk about what's happening in Los Angeles right now. Because the city is at the center of a storm that's making headlines across the country. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, launched a major operation in LA earlier this week, and things have really heated up. The scale and intensity of this crackdown are unlike anything the city has seen in years. Over just a couple of days, ICE officers arrested several people in the country illegally, and every person had a pretty serious criminal record. These weren't random sweeps. Officials say they were targeted operations. We're talking about convictions including burglary, homicide, drug trafficking, and even crimes against children. The authorities are emphasizing that these are not minor offenses, but serious felonies that have impacted victims and communities. Now, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Los Angeles is a city with a huge immigrant population, and any action like this sends shockwaves through neighborhoods. These arrests triggered huge protests and even some riots across the city. People poured into the streets demanding answers and calling for an end to what they see as heavy-handed tactics. People are angry, scared, and let's be real, on edge. For many, the fear isn't just about the arrests but about what could happen next. Some say ICE is just doing its job getting criminals off the streets. They argue that public safety has to come first, and that these operations are necessary to protect law-abiding residents. Others see this as traumatizing and politically motivated, especially since President Trump responded by sending in the National Guard to back up federal officers. The presence of military vehicles and troops has only added to the tension. Here's the deal. The Trump administration recently set a goal of making 3,000 ICE arrests every single day. That's a staggering number, and it's put enormous pressure on federal agencies to ramp up enforcement. That's a massive ramp up from previous years, and they're really trying to deliver on campaign promises about mass deportations after a big spike in illegal entries during the last administration. The border situation has become a central issue in national politics. Officials from the Department of Homeland Security are basically saying, look, we're targeting people who've already been convicted of serious crimes. Murder, drug trafficking, human smuggling, that sort of thing. They insist that these operations are focused and justified, not random or indiscriminate. We're not going to slow down, no matter the protests. Federal agents say they're committed to their mission, even as the backlash grows louder. But not everyone is buying that explanation. Critics argue that the raids are sweeping up people who pose no real threat, and that families are being torn apart in the process. California Governor Gavin Newsom blasted the federal response, saying it's traumatizing communities instead of protecting them. He's called for more humane policies and greater support for immigrant families. LA's mayor, Karen Bass, called it political retribution, plain and simple, and says it's creating fear that paralyzes entire neighborhoods. She's urging residents to stay calm and look out for one another. So what does this all mean? The city is divided, and the debate over immigration enforcement is more heated than ever. On one side, you've got federal officials arguing that public safety comes first, and they'll do what it takes to enforce the law. They say that without strong enforcement, crime will only get worse. On the other, you have local leaders and plenty of residents feeling like their communities are under siege for political gain. Many families are living in fear, unsure if they'll be next. Either way, this is a story that's far from over, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. The next few weeks could shape the future of immigration policy in LA and beyond. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is this about public safety, or is it something else? Do you feel safer or more anxious when you see these headlines? Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and remember, your voice matters.